Hey everybody, welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and joining me for this episode in the co-host chair is Jenny. Hi Jenny.
Hey Becky.
And we are super excited this week. We are joined by two amazing authors. We have Anne Whynot, which greatest author name ever. Welcome to the podcast, Anne.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. And then our friend and supporter of the podcast, Mariah Ankenman, is back. Hello, Mariah.
Oh, lovely to see you again.
It is lovely to see you. I'm so glad you guys are here. So I've wanted to do this episode to discuss this topic for quite a while, but I worry that I'm not going to do it justice. So my first thought was, I'm going to Mariah because sister's got a voice. Sister is going to help us. But then, Anne, I read your books that you published through Smarty Pants, and you do such a great job. And I know that you're kind of a little newer on the scene, a little quieter on the scene. And I'm like, she's got a really unique voice. We need to hear from her too. So it was very important to me that we cover all the things today. And also, it's a good experience for us to talk about this because we don't talk about it enough.
Yep.
We did an episode, was it this last fall, Jenny? About mental health?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And we talked about books with mental health rep, but we didn't really dive past that because there's so much more than own voice than just, mental health. So the romance genre is built on love, connection, and happily ever afters, but for too long, authentic stories featured disabled, chronically ill, and neurodivergent characters has been few and far between. That's changing thanks to incredible authors who write these characters with depth, nuance, and the kind of representation that feels real because it is real. So we are super excited to be joined by Anne Whynot and Mariah Ankenman. Each of these authors bring an own voice perspective to their work, crafting love stories that celebrate characters with physical disabilities, chronic illness, and neurodivergent identities, including autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. We'll talk about why representation matters, how their own experience shapes their stories, what goes into writing authentic, swoon-worthy romances featuring disabled protagonists. Plus, we'll dig into some of the misconceptions about disability in romance and how these authors are breaking down barriers with their books. So grab your favorite cozy read, get ready for an insightful, heartfelt, and inspired conversation about love, inclusivity, and the power of seeing yourself on the page. So let's get started here. First of all, let's just do the basics. Why romance? Anne, why romance?
I kind of just fell into it. I was kind of in a part of my life where things weren't really going well, and I was in a funk. And when my friend said, "Oh, you have to read this book," am I allowed to promo other books and stuff? Because
talk
it was
all the books.
It was out. Yeah, it was Outlander. Outlander's not really. It was like the gateway
the way
to
it
the
does.
rest of of romance. But once I started reading it, I started realizing these books are really smart and they're well written, and it's not what I thought, which would be this. There's nothing wrong with a stereotypical Highland lord, ripping his shirt off on the cover of a page. I mean, my grandma had hundreds of those. I read them when I was younger. So, but I found that today's books just hooked me a lot more. They were really smart. They addressed a lot of really kind of real world issues. And I just thought, what, maybe I should try doing this. Just sniff it out, see. And I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I fell in love with romance.
No, we get it. And we talk about this. We actually did an episode at the beginning of the year about how the books that we read, because I'm old, so the books that I was reading in the 90s, some do not hold up nowadays. I think of the Joanna Lindsay's that I read, and holy crap. And then I see the Harlequins with the Sheik's baby, and I think, oh, this is, whoa, what are we doing? I enjoyed them in the time, but they are not for now. they're just not. But we also didn't have fat women in 1990, and we get fat women in romance now, and I love that. So I get it. So no harm, and feel free to talk about all the books, because destroying TBRs are all the things we like to do.
Yep, that's her job.
They're never long enough. Never long enough.
Never long enough. I need it to be like 6 times longer. Okay, Mariah, I know we've done this before, but tell everybody how you ended up in romance.
I am a romance late bloomer. My mom did not have those books around the house. So I didn't find romance until I was in like my mid 20s. I think it was like 25. And I saw a cover for a romance book and it looked like really cool. Like I had been a fantasy reader before that. I saw the cover and it looked really cool. And I was like, ooh, this, vampires, this is going to be cool. And like I get to that first spicy scene. I'm like, wait, I think this is a romance book. And I finished it. I'm like, I think I love romance books. And then just like devoured every romance book I could. And I read all heat levels, like from, Just a Kiss to, 5 Chili Peppers. I love them all because for me, what I love about romance is that it's a genre all about hope. You're always going to get that happy ending. The characters are always going to be together in the end happily. And it's all about love and acceptance, and not only finding love with another person, but also accepting that you deserve to be loved.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important part of romance, is accepting that we deserve that love, especially when you're discussing disabled characters.
Well, and I remember that first time that I read Bet Me by Jennifer Cruzy. That was the first time that a fat girl was in a romance book that I picked up. And that moment of, and by that time I'd already been married a couple years. Like I wasn't not in relationship or whatever, but it felt like, you can be desirable. You can be sexy, and people do see it, and it's cool and it's okay. And so that asks my next question. So, coming into romance and you're like, okay, I want to write this. This is where I am. How do you make that choice to use your lived experiences to help develop your character? So Mariah, when did that happen for you?
It definitely took a number of books and a few different things. For one, it was reading Disability Rep and other books, like reading Talia Hibbert's books and Evie Mitchell's books, and being like, oh my gosh, I can write a book with a disabled character where it's not like a pity story or, like disability inspiration porn and stuff like that. And then it was also one of my critique partners who, when I was getting my autism diagnosis and I got it, and they're like, oh, is that why all your characters are like autistically coded? And I'm like, excuse me? What did you just say? They're like, oh yeah, like your characters that make up words and that constantly lose things and that, do this and do this and they speak without thinking about it. Those are all like autistic traits. Did you not realize you were doing that? And I was like, no, why didn't you tell me?
We actually talk about this a lot with your firefighter books. Just so you know, the Mile High Firefighters, like, we're convinced that certain of those characters are definitely like anxiety ridden, especially book 2, where she protects when she thinks that he's the stripper. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, that was, yeah.
I actually had to take some instances out of her talking without realizing she was speaking out loud, because my editor's like, it feels like there's something wrong with her brain. And I'm like, there was. She was neurodivergent and I didn't realize it.
Okay, well, I'm glad we're not off, Jenny. We obviously were seeing Mariah's characters before her.
And I'm like, that's how we all figure out we're neurodivergent, right? Like, we're like, I thought everybody was thinking like this. And then,
this isn't a normal thing that you all do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't realize that there were certain things we do in our house that, because the majority of our house is ADHD, some of us are undiagnosed self-medicating, but you get it. But I didn't realize there were certain things we did in our house that were because of ADHD. I just thought that it was because we were ridiculous and chaotic. No. There's actual reasons. And when the medicine is working, we're not doing those things. For you, Anne, when did you make that choice that you were like going to infuse your own experiences and your own voice into your stories?
You know, there's that old sort of adage, write what you know. And that kind of kept echoing in my mind as I was writing this book, because how I got into writing was I submitted a chapter that I wrote, kind of on the fly, to Smarty Pants Romance, who have published the only 2 books that I have out so far. There is a 3rd book coming, independently. I swear to God, I've been saying this for 2 years. It's almost done. But anyway, I submitted this chapter on the fly, and they're like, "Yeah, great, let's go with that." I was like, "What?" So all of a sudden, I was like, "Okay, I have to take these people and make them into people. They're not just names that get a few lines on a page. These are now real living beings in my mind, and they have to be well-rounded, and they have to have their own personalities and their own struggles and all of this stuff." And I just thought, you know what? Let's just make this a little bit easier for the first time around. And okay, so you're stuck on this character, that there's something deeper going on there, you can't quite figure out what it is. Oh, you're writing him bipolar 1 just like you are. And I was like, okay, that works, we'll stick with it. It was really that simple. Like, it wasn't a big I guess it wasn't really a big huge decision. It was just kind of like oh, okay, he's bipolar 1, let's go with it.
Yeah. But I think but I also think you deserve applause for the bravery of doing that. I think that it's easy to mask. I mean, it's exhausting to mask, but it's easy to mask. It's easy to be like, okay, everything's going to be perfect. Everything's going to be easy. But you said, okay, wait, for me, easier is just being authentic. And being authentic it's brave. Because there are many people that can't make that moment to do that. So kudos for you for just knowing from the beginning that this is how it was going to be easier for you, but you're also giving voice, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and I would say, like, in your first book, I mean, we definitely see the highs and lows of his bipolar journey, and that, like, he still deserves love even when things aren't going great. Like, that's what gets us through.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, I've been very lucky to have the same in my sorry, I just lost track there.
That's okay.
You
do not have to apologize.
But in my own life, I've had the same person beside me for 21 years. And they have been there as my best friend through ups, downs, sideways, like it's just anything. And they know, and they've always been there for me, and they always believe in me and have pulled out the best in me. I'm thinking, and then of course we fell in love, and now we're getting married.
Yeah.
It's a nice little HGA, I think, for us. But I think that helped me when it came to writing the book and realizing, okay, Jonathan, he's got bipolar 1, but he is worthy of Maxine's love. He's still worthy. They deserve each other. They kind of started out as frenemies, enemies, depending on which one of them you ask. And they deserve each other. And, we, as disabled people, we deserve that in our own lives as well. So absolutely. I think there was something that entered my mind just now, and it's going to be hopefully not too hokey, but have y'all seen Wicked?
Yeah, well, I haven't watched the movie. I've seen the Broadway show.
Yeah, pretty much everyone knows the line in Defying Gravity where she said everyone deserves a chance to fly.
Yeah.
But I think everyone deserves a chance at an HEA.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I thought. I was just sitting here and I was like, okay, yeah. What does everyone deserve? What do we deserve? We deserve happily ever after too. And I want to put that on the page. so that someone like me can pick up that book and they can read it and be like, oh, and that's kind of what I want and what my goal is when I'm writing my books. And my third book is also own voices.
That's fantastic. It is. It's not just that you deserve the HA, but you also deserve the acceptance and the love and the care.
Yeah.
So Mariah, for you have, in your books, you didn't even know you were doing it previous. And now the brewery series, we're getting it. How do you balance your storytelling and your, infusing your lived experiences into the books?
I think it depends on the books and the characters. Because when I wrote Perfect Imperfections, I knew I wanted that to heavily deal with Ellie's OCD and with, because it was, I've had OCD since I was about 12. And so it's been a long journey with me, and I felt like it was really misrepresented in the media. So I knew that one, I wanted to heavily focus on her OCD and have that be a really big plot point. But then when I got into the Distillery series, I wanted the neurodivergence in that to be a little bit less of a plot point and more of just, hey, here's a character that happens to be neurodivergent. Like Penny has autism, and then Charlie again was my editor pointing out when I sent them the first draft, they said, "Hey, Charlie has undiagnosed ADHD, right?" And so I was like, "Okay, give it back to me. We're putting that in. Here you go." Because again, I didn't realize I did that. I knew I wanted Penny to be autistic. And then with Charlie's story, they pointed out, hey, this character clearly with all, their anger issues and, just everything about the character and their mannerisms, they probably have undiagnosed ADHD, because my editor has ADHD. And so they recognized it right away. I don't have ADHD. My spouse and my oldest does.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. So I talked to them. I talked to my editor. We discussed. I also have siblings who have ADHD, so I got like all the information. I let them see the book. I'm like, what do you think? They're like, yeah, that's definitely ADHD. And I wanted to make it undiagnosed, because especially for a lot of women, we don't get our diagnosis until later because we can't be autistic. We can't have ADHD. We're just talkative. We're just, hyperact. We like to flutter about and stuff. It certainly couldn't be
so helpful. She's so helpful.
Yeah, so helpful.
She helps pass out papers and because she needs to be busy.
Yeah. But now that I've finally recognized what I'm doing in my stories, I am making it more intentional and yep. And some of the stories, the disability is a little bit more important to the story. And other times the disability is this person has a disability. It's going to pop up a few times in the book because it pops up in our life occasionally. Right. But like with every disability, it affects characters differently. So some characters, it's really going to affect them. And other characters, it's just going to be there.
Yeah. I really like reading them because I'm a medical mom. On top of everything else, I'm a medical mom. And I always do like it, when there's talk about medication times, because Jenny knows our lives are ruled by medication, right? By we have to take this at this certain time. And, my ADHDers, they deal better with routine. For the longest time, the girl child didn't think that we could leave the house after dark. We always had to be home at dark. And that was because we always had bath time we were very regimented. We always had bath time at 7:15. And then
gotta do it in the
8
same
o'clock
order.
Bedtime and always specific things. And the first time she realized there was daylight savings time and we were out and about at 5:30 or something, she's like, Mom, we have to go home now. I'm like, oh, why? What's wrong? What's going on? She's like, it's dark out. We have to go home. And I'm like, we don't. It's not time yet. We'll be okay. Anyway, Anne, for you, what is one of the biggest challenges in fighting? There are stereotypes to certain diagnoses, right? People always assume that schizophrenics are always going to hear voices. Not every schizophrenic hears voices, right? Not every ADHDer just flits from one thing to another. Some are like my boy child who are hyper focused. So how do you fight those stereotypes when you're writing?
That is an excellent question, because it feeds right into my next book that I'm writing, that I'm so excited to talk about, because it's not like things I've written before. In it, this book, I think it's going to help break down stereotypes in a different way, because part of it takes place. Let me see what I can give away without giving away the whole bit. Okay,
That's the worst part.
like the whole kit and caboodle. Here's the plot. No, but part of it, it's a 3-part book, and part 2, the middle part, takes place in a mental health inpatient unit. Some people call that the psych ward or a locked ward or something like that. And there are a lot of stereotypes about what those are like. And
Yeah.
we're presented that on television, in movies, and in books as to what they're like. And I actually wrote that part of the book about a woman who was in a locked ward in the mental health inpatient unit, because I was in the mental health inpatient unit at the time. So it's pretty authentic.
Yeah,
You know, it's pretty true to how that ward was, or that unit rather was. And I know I've had to change some things, of course, to make it fit with the story that grew around it. But I think having that section of book out there will make some people feel seen in ways they haven't, because there's that stigma around going in to one of those places.
Sure.
And then there's embarrassment, like you don't want to say, oh, well, I was a patient in one, or I've been a patient a couple of times. There's so much like wrong out there too. Like it's one of my pet peeves when I come across like something and it's very, very inaccurate to what my lived experience has been, having been in 3 different wards like that. And so I want to break down some of those stereotypes and things. Your original question, I think I kind of went like,
no, I think you're incredibly brave, and I'm in a little bit of awe over here, because I'm like, okay, you go, friend. And when is this book coming out? Because I'm gonna need this.
I want it out in the fall. I really do. It was supposed to be out this past fall, but then my shoulder went and I had to have surgery. I wound up in a coma. I was on life support. Like it was just like this, and this just happened like less than 2 months ago. Yeah. So I'm kind of recovering, and I'm not writing right now. So
well, no,
like,
that's fair.
I think you have to heal a little bit first.
Take a little time off,
just a little bit.
But yes, but this book, you know, I want it to like take the stereotypes and just like shoot them to smithereens.
Yeah.
You know, because I have met some of the most interesting, engaging, fun people in those places. And maybe that sounds odd, but it shouldn't, because these are just people like me and like anyone. You don't, you just don't know, I think, until you've been there. And then, you know, I was given a wonderful opportunity just quickly to toot the indie romance author community's horn a little bit, that a few authors that I approached stepped up and they they gave me books. And I also applied for a grant through a kindness organization. They gave me money, and ta-da, all of a sudden we had a mostly indie authored library for that mental health unit.
That's amazing.
So yeah, it was just wonderful to see these authors come together and say, yeah, we want to do this for these people. So there's that unit has books I'm sure that none of them had ever heard of before, because they're not a part of Romancelandia. They're just,
Yeah.
people from,
Up if you do that again.
Yeah. I'm saying, could you could you message us, because we like this.
Yeah. I was like,
I got some books, I got some
for it.
swag, some
I'm here for
nice
it.
things I would be happy to see. And Romancelandia, and this is the thing, and I don't know if it's a newer thing, because I've only been working in publishing since 2018. And I've been doing the podcast since 2020. It's a pretty fantastic community. Now, of course, we got our problems, but we're not talking about them right now. That's in a couple weeks. We'll rant in a couple weeks. But there is this love and light. And so, okay, so for you, Mariah, how are you breaking down those stereotypes? Because, is it your newest book with dyslexia? Wait.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's Head Over Heels in Love, which comes out in May. That one has dyslexia and audio processing disorder, which go hand in hand. And I have both of them.
Yay!
So I love breaking down stereotypes, especially with anything dealing with neurodivergency or chronic illness. Especially like Perfect Imperfections was a big kind of middle finger to stereotypes of OCD, because let me tell you, I am not clean. My house is a dang mess. Like, it is so messy. I'm not the wash my hands 7 times a day. Now there is germaphobe OCD. That is one part of OCD, but there's so many different types of OCD. And so I wrote that to show that it's not just that. And it's not just a ha ha ha, I'm so clean and tidy, I'm OCD. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. You do the compulsions because you're obsessing on the intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
And so I really like to break down stereotypes that way, and with chronic illness as well. In my paranormal novella, Claiming Her Crown, she's a wolf shifter with chronic illness, which is fashioned after my fibromyalgia. But of course, wolf shifter, they don't go to human doctors, so they won't get human diagnosis. But the whole book is about how she can't lead the pack because she's weak and she'll never be as strong. And that is true. Like, physically, she'll never be as strong, but she can use her strength and her knowledge and brains to the best of her ability with her body to lead. And that's the thing, is people think, oh, well, you're disabled, you're not worth anything. You contribute nothing to society, and therefore you just shouldn't be here, and you don't deserve love, because what are you doing? You're just sitting on your butt all day, watching TV, collecting a government check, which is not at all true. Not at all true. If people understood how hard it was to get disability pay, plus when you're on disability pay, there's so many rules, it keeps you in poverty in our country.
Yes.
It keeps you in poverty.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I like breaking down the stereotypes and just showing that, like, you can be disabled and you're still worth just as much as the next person. Even if you can't exactly function the way they function, we function in different ways, and that adds to society.
And your contribution still has value.
Exactly.
End of the discussion.
No matter what it is.
People. Okay. I'm getting a little hot and bothered over here. I'm like, the soapbox is going to start coming out. Like, I don't know. Do we need that? I don't know. Okay. So Gretchen, who's one of our community members, she asked in the YouTube chat, she asked, all of our lived experiences are different and unique. Do you use a sensitivity reader, even if writing from your own lived experience? So, do either one of you, have you engaged for stuff?
Yeah. Because it's always different. And I think if you're disabled in the disabled community, you don't have to look far for other people who have the same disabilities as you. So I
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
will find, other people and be like, what, from your point of view, how's this work? So yeah, sensitivity readers are definitely important.
Yeah, Gretchen she's a member of our community. She met you or saw you at the first Steamy Lit when you were on the
Oh,
panel.
yes, I was there,
Yeah.
and it was so fun, and I want to go back so bad, but not for a while.
Not for a while. Well, you got some
Yeah.
stuff going on.
Yes.
Yeah, Gretchen she's a wheelchair user, and oftentimes she will kind of be a beacon for us. She'll be like, it doesn't happen like that. This does not work. And I'm like, okay, sorry. But we love her. So thanks for hanging out, Gretchen. Okay, so you both have used sensitivity readers. So actually, I have to bring this up, Mariah. I'm going to get you all fired up now.
Oh.
I just want you to know the secondhand anger that I had. You entered a book into a contest.
I knew that was going to come up.
Do you understand how, like, the secondhand anger, like, in my brain, I'm like, I am messaging somebody and I am going to get someone fired. Like, the mean mom in me wanted to come out. So Mariah entered it was a book, right? A full book?
Yeah, it was Perfect Imperfections, actually. It was my OCD book.
Are you freaking for real?
Yeah.
That's the one. Okay. So her OCD book, she submitted into a contest. And one of the editors fed back, didn't understand why the HEA didn't cure her.
Yeah, the judge came back and was like, I think the ending would have been better if Ellie's OCD would have gotten better because Sully loved her. It just should have improved through love. I was livid. And I emailed the contest coordinators and told them why that was inappropriate and they needed better judge training. And they're like, we'll look into it. And I was like, okay, never entering that contest again.
Yeah.
That was
Wow.
My anger at that. Like, I just fumed. And I'm still fuming on it. Months later, like, you would think that I was the editor on it. I'm just your friend. But I was like, okay, who am I taking out? Like, I'm not a violent person, but I would be violent for that.
Wow.
I was mad for a while. I'm mostly okay now when I think about it, but like it's reasons like that I write the books I write because people are like sorry, there's no magic peen or magic bean in my books. Like nothing's They don't get cured by love. They get accepted for who they are.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're not curing disabilities by love. That doesn't happen.
No, but you can have things like, so we often joke that I'm Jenni's support human. Jenni doesn't she has some anxiety for social engagement. And so when she goes with me, she's cool. She can handle it. I help. I do the same for my spouse. Really, Jenni's just the girl version of my partner. I mean, I don't know.
We just switch.
They're the same. They're the same. Anyway, but
True.
so like your relationship can help you grow, but it doesn't ever take it away. It's still there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the support and acceptance. It's not a cure.
Right.
There's a difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah. So when you put these stories out in the world, it has to be scary, right? A little bit. Like, but have you found community of readers? Like, does that help you keep writing? The support from readers? We're not going to talk about the jackholes because, again, I love a troll.
I'll admit something.
Yeah.
I actually do not read my reviews.
Smart.
And when I say that, I mean it. Like, I literally do not. I have had some positive reviews funneled my way and some, because I mean, your debut book is, I mean, even I look back and I'm like, I don't know. But I mean, I love the book, but you start to see where you could have perhaps improved if you had more experience, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I've had some constructive criticism, some not so constructive criticism, and then I've had some love reviews funneled my way by other people who thought, oh, you should see this one. But I've read probably less than 20 reviews combined.
Good for you. Because
it's just, I have a generalized anxiety disorder. I've got that good old OCD too. Oh, and I'm reading that book, by the way. Perfect Imperfections, I think you said it was called. Okay, yeah, that's going on the TBR. And I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
So sorry.
That's okay. We're just talking about like acceptance from readers, engagement.
Right. The ones that have really impressed me though, and this is just the ones that have made the posts on Instagram where they it's not that a written review has less value, it's just that some of the ones went crazy with like making like Lego sculptures, because in my first book the main characters are in love with Lego, and people like made things, like they went out of their way to build stuff, or they, I don't know, stole it from their kid's room and said, hey, look, we'll just borrow it, but whatever. And so those things I do see. So there's a little hint, like if you have a strong feeling about my book, I won't see it on Goodreads, because Goodreads to me is kind of like reader's territory.
Sure.
If that makes sense in my mind anyway. That's how I kind of,
that's a great view.
And Romancelandia, and I don't go near Goodreads. But Instagram and Facebook is where I'll see more engagement. And the people that have been supportive have been just like beyond supportive. It's been very touching. It's been it's just been really great. And I don't know, sometimes I look back and I'm like, why? I mean, I guess it's just because I am so open myself with saying, hey, yeah, this is an Own Voices book, like yay, disability rep, great. But so that's been a little overwhelming, but in a good way. Like good overwhelming. The first 3-star review I got, I didn't know that 3 stars was actually good. Like it just could have constructive criticism in it and things like that. I thought it was terrible review to get 3 stars. So I was like, no, they hate me. So that's when I was like, you know what? It's healthier just to step away.
Smart. So smart. I have that same love-hate relationship with Threads. There are days that I'm like, oh, this is not for you. Yesterday was one of those days, Mariah, because the trolls were out with their homophobia, and I'm like, ooh. I had three authors text me yesterday with their concerns of that post, and I'm like, do not engage.
Oh, I blocked right away.
That's what I said. Block and move on. Block and move on. Because if you give voice to it, that pushes it in the algorithm and it blows up, and then all the crazies come out, and you don't need that in your life. So block and walk away.
Screenshot, block, and walk away.
Yeah.
I always screenshot so I know why I blocked someone.
Well,
which comes in handy when someone's asking for tea. And I'm like, wait, let me find it. I have a screenshot of it.
You should see our group chat. It's basically screenshots for me like, Jesus, what the hell are people doing? What the fuck? Anyway, and then we had Silent Book Club Friday night, and everyone's like, could you please explain to me what is going on? Well, it was Rena Kent, which, good for her. Preserve your mental health. Block and walk away. She knew that was not where she needed to be. And yeah. So good for you, Anne, for walking away from Goodreads, because I have a problem.
That's where authors' souls go to die.
What about you, Mariah? Switching from, because you were just writing your fun rom-com contemporaries, you didn't realize you were coding all these characters for us. But now you are moving a little more forward and putting yourself out there and talking about what's going on in your world. How has it been for you with the reader community?
With the reader community, it's been amazing. I've gotten people coming up to me at signings or sending me messages about, like, thank you for writing this rep. I have this, or my child has this. It's so great to see this and see the love and acceptance. And so from the reader community, it's been amazing and amazing to put that out there. And of course, yes, it does come with the hate, but I've always known that I personally can handle that, because, I have a screenshot and block mentality. So, like, it's fine. I will screenshot the nasty thing you say and I will block you and I will not give you any more space. And if I can be out there showing people that it's okay to talk about these things. It's okay to have characters with these conditions. It's okay to have them be loved and accepted for who they are without having to fix them. Then hopefully that will make other people brave in writing their own stories, maybe, one
Yeah.
day, or just brave enough to accept themselves as they are and go out there and find the love they deserve.
Yeah. And I don't think either one of you realize some of the work that you are doing. Again, because you're showing love and acceptance for these things that have often been termed, "Oh, you're the weird kid," or "Oh, you can't do that. Sorry." And the fact that you guys are giving voice and helping people, find themselves on the pages, it matters. So I say again, you guys are so brave. You are so brave. So next question. Well, we know Anne is writing and hopefully, fingers crossed, things work. And she has a book coming out in the fall. But, well, before I ask this question, I'll ask something else. Is there one book you haven't written yet that you really, really want to write it doesn't have to be a disabled rep. It can be whatever. But is there like a book or something that you want to write that you haven't taken the time yet to write? Do you have a story like that, Mariah?
I've got like 375 stories like
In your notebooks with your detailed plots?
all everywhere. I've got like little post-its like, don't forget about this story and this story and that story and this story.
Is there a
There's a lot.
subgenre because you typically have written rom-coms. Is there
Yes.
another subgenre you haven't written yet that you want to write that you're like, I see myself going with romantic suspense? I mean, I don't know what that it is.
I mean, I would love to write more paranormal. I know that like romantasy is big right now, but I would love to do a little bit more paranormal. Maybe like a paranormal rom-com
Okay.
could be fun.
That could be fun. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a huge Kimberly Lemming fan, so
Yes. Who isn't?
send them all my way.
Right?
Paranormal rom-coms, I'm in. What about for you, Anne? You've kind of written these emotional small towns at this point. Is there another subgenre or a story that you really hope you get to write?
Yeah, actually, my father's memoirs.
Oh,
He is an amazing man. He is blind and has been so since I was quite young, since I was 5 or 6. He built this house and it's a lovely home, and he built it with his own 2 hands, without power tools. He he just is building me a shelving unit, actually, try to make more room for my fiance moves in. And he's been this example for me, like, in my life, of saying, okay, look, there's a lot of people who would say a blind person can't paint a house, or a blind person can't build a shelving unit. It's like, what are you talking about? Of course he can. He just has to do it a little bit differently than how perhaps someone else might do it.
yeah.
My dad has never been one to just sit around and feel pity for himself. Never. And when I started to be diagnosed with things, you know, I realized I had this wonderful example of, like you have to fight, you can do it. You may have to do it differently or make accommodations for yourself, a room for yourself to, I don't want to say fail, but just to, like with this book I'm writing right now, for example, I thought I'd have it out in a year. It's taken me over 2.
Yeah.
But you know what? So what? It's getting done. So I'm so sorry. I keep losing the plot.
It's okay.
And I'll just very quickly explain. It's just because I didn't have my regular pills on time. So if anyone's wondering why she keeps wandering off into the stratosphere, that's just why.
It's okay. You really are okay, because honestly, I think Mariah just is so used to our chaos that she's like, yeah, we're just like, this is home. We really are a very accepting, safe space that you're fine. You're
Right.
great.
My dad's memoirs.
Yes.
That's what I said. The book that I want to write. I want to write his memoirs. He was born on a poor farm in a little tiny, Spitneel-Misset kind of town here in Nova Scotia, Canada. And he had such an interesting life growing up. Said he would not change one bit of his childhood if he could. Our family on that side is going through some hard times right now. And still, I interview him. I record his voice on my MacBook, which I hope lives, because it decided to die right before this started. So that's why, another reason I'm a little discombobulated. I'm on my iPad and not the computer I had prepared, and my OCD is kind of
course,
it's a little bit twitchy right now. But yeah, his memoirs, I think that they will be an interesting story. I'm going to stop at the point when I'm going to skip over the dating years, because I don't want to know those things.
Do any of us really want to know those about our parents?
No, I'm going to stop when he meets my mother, the most beautiful woman in the world.
There you go.
And that will be it, But yeah, it won't be a romance, but
it's okay.
It's deeply important for me to write.
That's really awesome.
Deeply important.
That's really awesome. I'm fascinated by people's stories, and I think that that's, again, part of why I do this, because getting to connect and meet with people and learn their different stories and where they're coming from. Like the first time I connected with Jenni, we actually only live an hour away from each other, but we met through the book world, and we connected, and it was almost like, why haven't we been always friends? Because we're both medical moms, and we live spicy. We live in those spicy houses. And so it's just, stories, people fascinate me. I get it. I do get it. Okay, so Mariah, you have the last 3 books published independently.
Yes.
But you're going back to a publisher.
Yes. After this next release, Head Over Heels in Love will be the 4th in the Jackson Family Distillery series. And then I have 2 books coming out with Harlequin Romance. Both have disability rep in them. The first one, Accidentally Dating the Enemy, is coming out, I think, end of July, like beginning of August. And that one has celiac disease, which is not own voice. But a number of people in my family have celiac, including my sister, who lived with us for about 2.5 years. So I got very familiar with the disease, asked her a lot of very personal questions that she lovingly answered for me. Sometimes during work meetings, hey, does this happen? What happens when you do this? And I am in a work meeting. Sorry.
We cannot talk about poop while I'm in a work meeting.
So
it's okay. Becky has to buy special food when I come to her house. So
she does.
I get it.
Jenni's gluten-free, and we buy them all.
Many.
And then she has to take them home when she remembers, because they're just going to die here.
Yeah, we have so many food allergies. And so I was like, you know what? and both the hero and the heroine have celiac disease.
Oh.
So,
Oh, that
yeah.
makes sense.
And they're
That's
D&D nerds.
D&T.
And then the second book, we don't have a release date yet, but that one, the heroine has POTS, which I was recently diagnosed with. So that's been really
We have like the same basket of fun things here.
I know, it's fun. It's like there's so comorbidities that go well together. It's like, oh, you have fibro? Well, here, have some POTS too. You want
Right.
some of that? Have OCD?
Yeah,
Like some anxiety?
that's
How about some dyslexia and audio processing on top? It's Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all.
You got to catch them all. Really snub
Yes.
contest. Although I used to think, okay, so I've spent the last I think the last 18 months with diagnosis for our girl child. And because I homeschooled because of the medical complexity of the boy child. And so she was able to be herself in home, learned, produced, did great. But as, she's aging up, we noticed there were certain things that weren't working and whatever. And so I told her after her first doctor's appointment, she came home and they listed like 3 things on her medical chart that she's now been diagnosed with. And I'm like, let's make Girl Scout badges for each of your diagnoses. She did not think I was funny, but I said, you could have a sash and it could be sparkly and we could make badges for all the fun things. Now, granted,
I want a disability sash.
right?
Yeah,
Granted, she's 17.
I'm already thinking of ideas.
She's 17, 18 at the time, and she's just like, what is wrong with you? And here I'm like, look, we can get custom patches made, like we could do sparkly, shiny threads. She just didn't embrace the disability sash.
I like it.
I just think you could throw that on when you go to the doctor and be like, look, I got my bed. It's like a stamp card.
That would be helpful.
Right.
Yeah, and then you can just have like a little like rollout thing for like, this is my med list.
Right? Yeah, or you could embroider your med list on the back of the sash. Although if you change meds, then you got to tear that stuff out.
Yeah.
That could get complicated. I was also, though, just recently we had something happen. And I was like, before we go to the doctor, could you just take pictures of all your meds so that we know what you're on and the doses? Because I can't remember anything anymore. Anyway, that's ridiculous, right? So, yeah, if we decide we could do disability
I like
sashes.
it. I like it. Put it all on my sunflower lanyard.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, I saw someone today asked that if you write Omegaverse and you're at a signing and you do like the ribbons underneath, that they wanted one that said OV and then like the water emoji so that you knew. And I was like, oh, that's really great. But just think we could do those for like, just
like it.
layer the ribbons.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it. All the different, here they all are.
Shouldn't the doctors like give us those?
Sometimes.
Like, it should be like, you know how you used to get the treasure chest at the doctor's office? Here is your ribbon. Today you have POTS.
Fun.
Yay!
I don't know. Just some ideas I have.
I like it. I like these ideas.
Okay. Thank you both for hanging out with us and talking about the stories you write. Thank you for being brave and writing these books and telling your stories. I'm in awe of both of you. Just in awe. Okay. So just real quick, guys, make sure you are back here Wednesday night, 9 p.m. for our discussion of Idol by Kristen Callahan. Then we're back next Sunday. Swag packs were sponsored this month by Lizzie B. Brown. She's the author of Obsession. She also, is it Friendsgiving, Jenny? Is the book that she wrote?
Yes.
I read it.
It's Friendsgiving.
It's Friendsgiving. It had great buy rep in it. It was fantastic. So if you would like to connect and to learn more about Anne and Mariah, please check out our show notes at buzzingaboutromance.com. Sign up for their newsletters. Follow them on all the socials. I've linked it all on our website. If you love this episode, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more exciting content to you every week. Again, Anne and Mariah, I cannot thank you enough for coming and hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
having
much
us.
for, yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Until next time, everybody, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.